Hello, my name is Kevin Snyder, and I'm a husband, father, and estate planning and elder law attorney at Snyder Law. I'd like to talk to you, parents out there, about the importance of a young adult emergency plan. Now, this plan, as you will hear, is for your teenage children and college age children that are turning 18. And as I will explain, it's going to be abundantly clear how important this is, not just for them, but also for you as the parents. And as a parent, I understand just how important it is, that desire to continue to protect your children, no matter what age they are. And so sit back, relax, and you're going to hear about the program and learn everything you need to know to keep your children safe as they age up into adulthood. In this video, we're going to talk in detail about the Young Adult Emergency Plan. And you're going to learn in our video why expressly this is so important, what can happen and why legally it can happen that way, what your child is going to need to have in place in order to protect them, what you're going to need to have your child have in place in order for you to continue to be the wonderful parent that you are, and how you can get this in place. What are the steps to do that? So first, a little bit about me and why I'm here talking to you. As you might remember, I said I'm a husband, father, and an estate planning and elder law attorney. And as a father, I have three children, none of whom are in high school yet. We just had our first birthday into the teenage years. So our oldest, Connor's 13, Madeline's 11, Ryan's 9. While our children haven't gone through the high school experience like you're going through, they'll be there soon enough, right? It goes by like a blink of an eye. But this program wasn't developed for them. This program started because I married into a very large family that you see here on the screen on the right. And I have 15 nieces and nephews that are much older than my kids. Well, some of them are the same age, but a lot of them are older. In fact, we have one nephew who's already 2 years out of college. So it was that nephew about 6 years ago that we started, when he was getting ready and prepared to move off to school. It dawned on us, well, geez, his parents are not equipped to help him should something happen to him. And he was turning 18 in his fall semester. When he turns 18 up at school at University of Portland, what's going to happen if he gets into an accident, there's a medical emergency, or he just needs some extra support? And we knew that mom and dad didn't have the answers to that. And we did, because this is something we were already doing for a number of our clients, but from the scope of they were older. They were older adults, right? So we took some of that concept of planning and brought it down to what are the key essentials that every person needs when they turn 18 and become an adult in the United States. And then we started building on that plan as we had other nieces and nephews age up and turn 18, go off to college. We kind of kept revising that plan, and we started working with a number of schools and working with their students and the same concept. So this, over the last 6 years, we started this program in 2016. Since 2016, we have developed this into what we're presenting today as a young adult emergency plan. And we do it because we know how much you care about your students, your children. We do it because we're going to care that much when our kids are there. And we already care that much about our nieces and nephews. And we want you to be empowered and have the legal tools to be able to continue to be the wonderful parents that you are, and step in and actually be able to help them instead of instead of getting blocked out, because that's what's going to happen. Life is what happens, as we know from John Lennon. Life happens when you go ahead and make other plans. Life's also stranger than fiction. We see it on a day-to-day basis in our practice, is that the craziest things happen in life that are completely unscripted, and also just something that you would never even think could ever happen or happen to you, but it does. And your children are not immune to that. And now that they're going to be 18, you're going to continue to want to protect your children just like you do when they were growing up and they were minors. That's not going to change. Your love for them is not going to change. But what's going to change is your legal ability to step in and do what you were able to do quite easily when they were under 18. You were able to get information. You were able to talk to doctors. You were able to make decisions on their behalf. You were able to contact the school and get information. These are all things maybe you can do now. They're not 18. That's all going to stop when they turn 18. And you're going to be locked out of their lives legally. So we want to prevent that, obviously, because we want you involved so you can help them. But let me give you a little bit of a flavor of what really can happen, because I think it's important for you to know, not from a scare tactic standpoint. This isn't to scare you into doing anything. This is to face the actual realities of a situation. Vice Admiral James Stockdale famously said that you have to look at the bad facts face forward, right in the eye, but still have the faith that you're going to be able to overcome them. So the people that don't overcome things aren't looking at the facts because they don't want to know how bad they are, or they don't have the faith that they actually can overcome the bad facts. So yes, there are some bad things that can happen out there, and here are some examples of them. There could be a delay in the police or the hospital contacting you that something has happened to your child after a really bad auto accident. You can be denied access to information from the school, from the hospital, from the police about what's going on in your child's life because they're an adult and there's privacy laws. There can be some confusion between you and your spouse, or just within the family, or just in general about what your child's wishes actually are, and if they need to have some medical treatment and they're unable to voice that because they're in a coma. And there's not going to be an ability for you to advocate in situations such as dealing with landlords or dealing with predatory lenders in order to protect your children's credit or protect them from being abused by other creditors or other people. So these are things that actually can happen. And no, these aren't things that we just made up. There are actually real stories that are attached to that. But like I said, this isn't a scare tactic. You're going to be able to overcome all this. Why? Because we have this program, the Young Adult Emergency Plan. You're going to have something in place that can overcome the tragedies that result in these situations. Now, we can't protect your son and daughter from getting in car accidents or having medical crises or being a victim of a predatory lender or a nefarious person. However, we can give you the tools to step in to make sure that we don't exacerbate those situations. So when you have a story of a family who has a student in college out in South Carolina who is otherwise healthy, no prior drug use, wasn't a drinker, all of a sudden his heart stops one day while he's playing video games. And they're not made aware for 6 hours that he's been rushed to the hospital because the school is hemming and hawing about what they can divulge about what's happening. And the hospital doesn't have the information from the school to contact the parents. 6 crucial hours go by before those parents are notified. Or you have a situation where a mom is looking for a daughter because they've gone missing. And they can't contact them. They're not returning phone calls. It's been a week. They're very scared something's happened to their daughter. School's not letting them know about anything to do with anything in regards to school and contact the school. Have you heard from my daughter? Have you seen my daughter? Have the teachers seen her? The professor's seen her in class? They're not able to provide any information because that's protected. That's private and is protected under educational laws. They had to call the police to ultimately find out that their daughter had been admitted to a hospital a town over. There's the confusion about healthcare wishes. Real story that you might remember, Terry Schiavo from the 90s. For those of you that name might ring a bell because that Terry Schiavo's story was faced forward for about 15 years. 15 years of a legal battle between Terry's young husband and Terry's parents as they went up the appellate chain all the way to the Supreme Court to fight over whether or not Terry should be removed from life support. You see, Terry was only 26 when she had an episode where she stopped breathing and oxygen did not go to her brain and left her arguably in a vegetative state. But it was unclear what Terry wanted because there was nothing in writing. There was no document. There was conversations that they had loosely with parents in the past or with her husband about, hey, if anything happened like this, then do that. But nothing was in writing, and that led to the arguments for 15 years, something that easily could have been avoided if there had been some planning in place. And then the stories, many stories out there of students graduating with debt, with poor credit, or having to file bankruptcy. Why? Because there are a lot of predatory lenders. You might remember your own college experience going through the student union, or I went to Boston College, so the Dust Bowl at BC, and the tables set up from all these different credit card companies that were just hawking T-shirts, free stuff to get kids to sign up, and just give them a little bit of credit and get them in. And as they spend, increase that credit limit, until you can have students graduate in debt, unsecured debt, thousands and thousands of dollars. We're not talking about student loan debt, unsecured credit card debt at higher interest rates. And there have been stories, you just go look it up on Google, kids who had to file bankruptcy at age 22. And for those of you that are familiar with what that does to your credit, it sinks your credit. That bankruptcy stays on your credit for 7 years. And think about what you did in your mid-20s. Got an apartment, leased a car, maybe tried to buy a house, maybe got married, buy a house. All that's impacted with poor credit. You're not able to do any of that. And here you are, a young person who's going into the job world and trying to excel and exceed, now hindered by something that maybe the parents could have interceded and been able to deal directly with the credit card companies and the predatory lending. So these are just some of the things and anecdotes of things that can and do happen. And lastly, and this is not just in any order of importance, but certainly important, is what is happening at school in regards to your child's mental health. There's been countless stories that are out there in the news that you can look at. Most recently in 2022, there was the Stanford soccer goalie that died by suicide. And come to find out afterwards, some of the stressors that were happening could have been better communicated from the school to the parents. And they weren't, because there are privacy laws. And the school did not have the permission to share what was happening. And if there was that permission, then perhaps the parents would have known a lot sooner about the things that were going on at school that were stressing their daughter out. Similar story of New York, if you're looking online. Student in New York, upstate New York. The name of the school escapes me at the moment, but it was upstate New York. It may have been Cornell, it may have been Ithaca College, but a school up in that area. The professors were noticing distinct changes in the students' behavior and commented amongst themselves, talked to the school. School did nothing to communicate that to mom. Why? Because of the privacy laws. There's a FERPA law that prevents that information from being shared to anyone, even mom or dad. And unfortunately, that student ended up dying by suicide. Mom found this all out later, unfortunately, and learned that there could have been a number of preventative measures that could have been taken had she had the information. So we want you to not replicate history. We want to give you the tools necessary to help. And so that's what can happen. Why this happens again, because your child's turning 18 in the United States. For just about all of the states except Alabama and Nebraska, when you're 18, you are legally an adult. In those two states, it's 19. There's no automatic legal authority that extends to parents to say, okay, we are mom and dad biologically, or adopted mom and dad. We now can get all the health records, all the school records, anything about our child, because they're our child. It doesn't work that way. They're now considered an independent person, and they're an adult. And privacy laws, from data to protected health information to educational information, is all private. You're not blocked out because they're an individual. Your child has to give permission, and that permission comes in the form of legal documents: an advanced healthcare directive, a durable power of attorney, filling out a FERPA waiver form for the school. Those are the things that need to be done in order for you to be given the permission by your now adult child to be able to be their advocate. And then in their death, if God forbid they do pass away young, and you need permissions to be able to carry out their wishes of what they want, or just do things like transport their body across state lines. You need permission in a last will and testament to be able to access data on their phone, their computer, any dealing with any online accounts or subscriptions like Instagram, or I know it's not really a thing for the kids now, Facebook, but just think about your own Facebook experience. They might have a LinkedIn profile. All of this need permission. If you don't have that, then you end up in court, and that's the probate court. For those of you paying attention in the news in 2021, and 22, with the story of Britney Spears and her conservatorship in California, that was probate court. And if that the parents had to go to court in order to be able to help their daughter in that situation, but that also works if your son or daughter is incapacitated. It's like Terry Schiavo. You're going to have to go to court and deal with that. And you're going to have to go to court to deal with any complications after their death, trying to get information off of Apple and the iPhone because your son or daughter's phone is locked and you don't know the code. Those are just some examples. So we need to put that all together in our young adult emergency plan. And it contains those documents: durable power of attorney, advanced healthcare directive, last will and testament, a HIPAA waiver, and giving you instructions about how to fill out the FERPA. And those are all important legal documents. But you know what? You can't just fill out legal documents on your own. It requires a conversation. And you could probably pull those documents. I know you can pull those documents offline and go to LegalZoom. That's not a new thing. The challenge is that answers to the questions posed in those documents, or what the document is trying to relay outward, is best had through a conversation. And it's hard to have a conversation with a computer screen or a piece of paper. So what we do in our practice is we have that conversation with families. We meet with the parents and their young adult son or daughter, and we have these conversations. We help facilitate them. We present the situations. We help share the knowledge about what really happens, what the law really says, for what might happen in a hospital, what really could happen in situations, to things and topics like artificial nutrition, what a feeding tube is, and how that might come up even for them who are only 18. To talking about life support and what that really means, what the situations are, the parameters and the options. Things like palliative care, which typically we think about, oh, that's for older people. That's for my mom and dad, my grandma and grandfather. Well, it's not. And other things that are more practical, like what are your passwords? Let's do some organization over online accounts and passwords so that you know how you can access what you need to access and how to access it. And other topics like, does your child want to be an organ donor? What does it mean to be an organ donor? How does it actually work in the hospital? Do they just keep people alive for harvesting their organs? Or how does it actually work? So things like that we talk about, and through a guided conversation. So what your child needs in the young adult emergency plan is they need these legal documents that I talked about to give you the legal right to have permission to be their advocate. You need a counsel from an actual law firm to walk you through all the discernment and give you that quote unquote guided tour through the law, so that your child really is completing the documents in a way that will give you the right permissions to act, and you understand what outcomes they want, and they understand what outcomes they want and how to get there. Thirdly, you need to have an emergency action plan. So these are legal documents. They're not magic documents. They're not going to know when there's an emergency that's going on. So we need to have some protocols in place. And we utilize a medical emergency card system that is going to be able to connect the emergency room to you, to legal documents, all very quickly. And it's a protocol that's worked really well. Unfortunately, it has been tested through our clients, and we know that it works. It's really, really important to have access to documents. So you need to get instant alerts. Imagine you're on a trip somewhere enjoying a little bit of you time after your kid has gone off to college, and then something happens and you're not at home. You're vacationing in another state or another country. And how are you going to get alerted that something's happened? Well, you can get a phone call. You're going to get a phone call and you're going to get an email. You're going to be able to access your son or daughter's legal documents right there on your phone to be able to ensure that you know what their wishes are. But certainly if you need to send them anywhere, back wherever your child is going to school, the hospital is going to be able to be looking at that as well. And you're going to have no interruptions in order to get information from the hospital or from the school. And your child's going to have access to this medical emergency system for at least 5 years in our program. They can have it longer than that, but at least 5 years. So that's our young adult emergency plan, and something that has been working really well for parents for the last 6 years, since 2016 and moving forward. So how do you get it? It really is, here's the easy button, easy as 1, 2, 3. All you need to do is schedule with us, purchase our program, and you'll be able to schedule an appointment with our office for a design meeting. And that's the meeting with you and your son or daughter with our law firm. And so that we can give you that guided tour. We will provide materials in advance so that you can review at home with your son or daughter, so that you get a better feeling of what the topics we're going to be talking about and some of the definitions of things, and giving you things to think about, so that you can be prepared for that meeting and have that meeting be more powerful for you. But it is a guided tour, so you're going to meet with somebody from our team that's going to walk you through that at the meeting. And then, of course, we sign documents. Now, all of this, the great thing is the 1, 2, 3 can happen all virtually. So yes, we do have a brick and mortar office in Irvine, and those that are local are welcome to come to it to sign documents. But if you're not close by, your child's already off at college, somewhere else, not close by, then these are all things that can happen virtually, even the signing. So it's something that's really easy to put together. We try to make it that easy because it's something that is so very important. We don't want to have any roadblocks that are there. So that's our young adult emergency plan. And how long, I get asked, how long does it take to put it together? The time is 3 weeks to put it together, because it gives us the opportunity for you to schedule, review the stuff that we send, meet with us, and then we put all the documents together to be prepared for your signing. So a 3-week turnaround, pretty fast. But if we share that because we don't want any misnomers that if your child's going to school tomorrow, that this is something that you're going to be getting to do in an afternoon. We really want you to have a plan that's going to work and you understand it. So some questions that we get asked a lot, and you might have some questions as we're going through. Questions that we get asked a lot here are, what's the earliest that my child can start planning? Well, the earliest, that we'd advise really is when they're 17. You start doing the planning. Now, they can't actually sign legal documents until they're 18. But the best plan for maximum protection is on their 18th birthday, they're signing legal documents. So they're protected from day one of their adulthood. So naturally, you can start the planning when they turn 17. They just have to wait to sign. If your child's going to school out of the state or out of the country, no worries. The plan's going to work for them. Why? As many states have similar types of laws and permissions when it comes to this type of planning, giving permissions to individuals to act for them and be their advocate. And so it's going to work in other states. Just think about if you have a power of attorney and you travel somewhere and something happens, your power of attorney, your advanced healthcare director will still work in that other state that you're vacationing at. Now, out of the country, it depends on what country. So we have to talk a little bit more. Most of the countries, though, that young people are going to go to college at or even study abroad at, all of those have good treaties with the United States, and anecdotally would follow any of those documents as instructive about who's able to get information and who can be an advocate. So even works there. The legal documents are effective forever until your son or daughter wants to change them. So there's no timeout. It doesn't lapse at any point. The 5 years that I mentioned deals with the length of the actual emergency protocol, that program. And you can extend that out longer than 5 years. You just get a subscription for 5 years to that platform for the medical emergency card and the emails and all that access information between hospitals from that card. But the documents themselves, they're good for until whenever they want to change. And of course, they can change them. They are adults, so if they want to change up something in the future, they can do that, and they probably will, right? Think about your life when you're 18, and then maybe 10 years later when you got married, who you were going to include in the planning and the decision making. You would have your spouse there. So naturally, these things aren't set in stone forever. They are changeable and adjustable. Um, and if your child's already gone to school, as I mentioned, we can do all this virtually. We've worked with sons and daughters that are away on the East Coast, here in California, getting this all set up because of the wonderful abilities in our virtual world. And lastly, I get asked from time to time, well, can I just do this on my own, go to LegalZoom, what have you? Sure, of course. Of course you could do that. The difference maker is, of course, is that in those situations, you're not having a conversation, and they're not putting together a package as holistic as this. So it's just a cost benefit analysis for you. Do you want to have a guided plan from a law firm with lawyers that have done this for a number of years, or do you want to fill in the blank and hope it works? So what we're offering is a partnership to work with you so you can be empowered parents and continue to be legal advocates. So again, my name is Kevin Snyder. I'm a husband, father, and estate planning and elder law attorney, and I really enjoy this part of my job, working with young people and young families to get the young adult emergency plan in place so you can have that peace of mind as they go off to school, that if something, God forbid, happens, that you guys are covered. So thank you for your attention, and keep being amazing. Take care.